The train whistle pierced the night like a scream, jolting me awake in the dim sleeper car, my heart pounding as if it knew what was coming. I stumbled to the window, pressing my palm against the cold glass, and there he was, standing on the platform below, his silhouette sharp against the sodium lights of that godforsaken Kansas depot, holding a single envelope like it was the last thread between us. "Don't go," he mouthed through the roar of the engine. His voice lost to the wind, but his eyes, those damn blue eyes, begged louder than words ever could. That was the night everything shattered. 6 months into what I'd foolishly called our forever. We'd met in a dive bar in Seattle, the kind where the rain hammered the tin roof like it was trying to drown out the jukebox blues. I was 25, fresh out of a dead-end graphic design gig in Portland, nursing a cheap IPA and sketching strangers on a napkin to forget the ex who'd ghosted me after coming out to his Bible Belt family. He slid onto the stool next to me, all easy charm and that lopsided grin, smelling like pine from the logging crew he'd just left up in the Cascades. "What's a guy gotta do to get in on that masterpiece?" he'd said, nodding at my doodle of a faceless man with a broken compass heart. His name was Riley. Riley Hayes, from some nowhere town in Wyoming where the winters bit harder than the gossip. 27, with calloused hands from felling trees and a laugh that cut through the bar's haze like sunlight on fog. We talked until last call. About the open road, the way America felt too big sometimes, how we'd both run from small-town shadows that whispered "freak" behind our backs. By dawn, we were tangled in his truck bed under a tarp, the city lights blurring as he kissed me like I was the first real thing he'd ever tasted. No fireworks, no violins, just two guys figuring out that fitting together didn't have to hurt. We didn't plan it, but Seattle spit us out together. I crashed at his rented cabin on the outskirts, a creaky frame with a wood stove that smoked more than it warmed. Days blurred into hikes through Olympic rainforests, where he'd hoist me over fallen logs and steal kisses mid-stride, his breath hot against my neck. Nights were for bonfires, cheap whiskey, and stories. His about the dad who disowned him at 17 for kissing a teammate after prom. Mine about the mom who baked pies for church fundraisers while pretending my phase would pass. "We're nomads, you and me," he'd say, tracing routes on my skin with his fingertip. "Gonna see it all, state by state. No roots, just us." The first ticket came a week later, tucked into my sketchbook like a secret. A Greyhound stub from Washington to Oregon, scribbled on the back. "First leg of forever. Miss you already." He'd driven me to Portland for a freelance interview, but instead of heading back, he boarded the bus south, promising to circle around and meet me in Cali. I laughed it off as his dramatic flair, but when I unfolded it later, my chest tightened. It was real, his way of saying he wasn't running alone anymore. Portland welcomed us with hipster coffee and overpriced lofts, but we skipped the scene for a rented RV, painting murals on the walls with whatever paint we swiped from art supply stores. Riley cooked breakfasts of eggs scrambled with wild mushrooms he'd foraged, and I'd design logos for local bands in exchange for gigs that paid in beer. We made love on the roof under starry skies, his whispers turning my name into poetry. "You're my compass, Jax," he'd murmur, fingers laced in mine. "Point me anywhere. But the road has a way of testing you." Crossing into California, the RV broke down outside Eureka, transmission shot, stranding us in redwood shadows. While I haggled with mechanics, Riley vanished for hours, returning with grease under his nails and a feral grin, a bouquet of coastal wildflowers clutched in his fist. "Fixed it myself," he said, but his eyes dodged mine, flicking to the horizon like he was chasing ghosts. I let it slide, chalking it up to cabin fever, but that night, as we drove south toward Big Sur, he pulled over at a cliffside pullout. The Pacific crashed below, foam white against obsidian waves, and he handed me another ticket, this one an Amtrak pass from Oregon to Cali. State 2. Loving you harder than the ocean loves the shore. We chased sunsets from there. San Francisco's fog-shrouded bridges, where we rented bikes and raced like kids, wind whipping our laughter. Napa Valley's heavy with grape scent, where he blindfolded me for a picnic of stolen cheese and wine, his lips tasting like Merlot when he untied the knot. In LA, we crashed on a cousin's couch in Echo Park. Mine. the one who'd outed himself on national TV years back, and dove into the queer scene. Drag brunches that left us howling, leather bars where hands brushed anonymous, but eyes locked on us like we were the main event. Riley thrived there, his Wyoming drawl turning heads, but I caught him staring at his phone too long, thumb hovering over unsent texts. "You're quiet tonight," I said one evening, sprawled on the rooftop of a taqueria. Tacos cooling between us as Hollywood blinked below. He shrugged, that grin flashing like armor. "Just thinking about the next stamp in our passport." But his voice cracked, and when he leaned in to kiss me, it lingered too fierce, like goodbye wrapped in hello. Nevada hit like a fever dream. Vegas neon searing our retinas. The Strip a carnival of excess where we blew $50 on slots and won a stuffed alien that became our mascot. "For our mothership," Riley joked, tossing it at me during a showgirl parade. But off the boulevard, in a dingy motel with Elvis sheets, the high crashed. He woke from a nightmare. Sheets twisted around him, muttering about not good enough. I held him until dawn, his head on my chest, heartbeat syncing with mine. "Whatever it is, we face it," I whispered. He nodded, but the ticket he slipped me the next morning, from Cali to Nevada, felt heavier. State 3. "You're the only jackpot I'll ever need." Utah's salt flats mirrored the sky into infinity, making us feel small and infinite all at once. We camped under the stark white expanse, bonfire crackling as he taught me constellations. Orion's Belt, the Big Dipper, stories of gods who loved to cross divides. "Like us," he said, pulling me close, but the isolation gnawed. Radio static brought news of a Wyoming rancher who'd strung up his gay son from a barn beam, and Riley went still, fork midway to his mouth. That night, he confessed fragments. The brother who'd beaten him bloody for shaming the family. The town that had branded him with whispers until he fled at 18. "I don't deserve this," he said, voice raw. "You." I cupped his face, thumbs brushing stubble. "Bullshit. You're my road, Riley. Every mile." We made promises there, etched in salt. No secrets, no running. The ticket to Arizona waited in my pocket, State 4. Salty as our tears, sweet as our sweat. Arizona's canyons swallowed us whole, echoes bouncing our shouts into eternity. We hiked rim to river, packs heavy with water and wonder, his hands steady in mine on sheer drops. Phoenix heat baked us senseless, but we cooled off in Sedona's vortexes, where red rock hummed with ancient energy. "Feel that?" he asked, palms pressed to earth, eyes closed. "It's us, unbreakable." I believed him then, tracing the scar on his knuckles from a bar fight back home, kissing it like absolution. But cracks spiderwebbed. In a Flagstaff dive, he flirted with a cowboy at the pool table. Harmless, I thought, until the guy cornered him in the alley, words turning to fists. I pulled Riley out, blood on his lip, and drove us into the night. "Why didn't you fight back?" I demanded, tires chewing desert gravel. He wiped his mouth, eyes distant. "Because part of me thinks he's right." The silence stretched cruel, broken only by the radio crooning Johnny Cash about walking the line. New Mexico's turquoise trails led to Santa Fe's adobe charm, galleries glowing with native art that made my designer heart ache. We wandered markets, haggling for silver rings we exchanged under a full moon. Simple bands, engraved with nomads. Riley's eyes shone, vowing, "Till the stars burn out." But his phone buzzed more, texts from an unknown number he deleted too quick. I pretended not to notice, focusing on the ticket he'd left. State 5. Rings and roads, forever yours. Texas sprawled endless, from panhandle plains to hill country hills. Austin's music scene pulsed with our rhythm. Live shows and dive bars where we two-step like fools, his boot tapping mine under tables. "This is living," he yelled over guitar riffs, sweat slick and alive. But in a San Antonio mission, shadows of Spanish ghosts, he broke. A call from his ma, voice trembling on speaker. "Come home, baby. Your brother's getting married. Family needs you whole." Whole. The word hung like smoke. He hung up, face ashen. "She doesn't know about us." I nodded, throat tight. "Tell her." But he shook his head, the ring twisting on his finger. That night, in a roadside motel with mariachi echoes, he made love to me like atonement. Slow, deliberate, eyes locked as if memorizing. The ticket to Oklahoma waited, State 6. Family's what we make, not what they break. Oklahoma's winds whipped us across prairies, dust devils dancing like warnings. Tulsa's Art Deco spires offered brief glamour, but the heartland's weight pressed. Riley grew distant, maps out at odd hours tracing routes back east. Just planning, he'd say, but his touch cooled. In a Norman diner, pie cooling untouched, he admitted it. The ex from Wyoming, the one who'd left him for normalcy, now texting apologies, begging a second chance. It's nothing, he swore, but doubt seeded. We pushed to Kansas, wheat fields golden under harvest moon. Wichita's skyline felt like a crossroads, and that's where the train waited. My freelance job calling me east for a month-long gig in Chicago. I'll follow, he promised, kissing me fierce on the platform. But as the cars lurched, envelope in hand, his mouthed plea echoed, "Don't go." The envelope burned in my fist as the train pulled away, Kansas fading to black ink on the window's reflection. Inside, a bus ticket to Missouri, scrawled State 7. Chasing you always. But his face, twisted in that raw plea, haunted me more than the miles. I texted him from the club car, fingers numb over lukewarm coffee. "What aren't you saying?" No reply. By St. Louis, the arch gleaming like a silver scar against the river. My phone stayed silent, each jolt of the tracks twisting the knife deeper. Chicago swallowed me whole, Windy City's gale-off Lake Michigan mirroring the storm in my gut. The gig was a dream, designing album art for an indie folk band, lofts in Wicker Park buzzing with creativity. But nights blurred into bars where laughter rang hollow, sketches of Riley's profile smudged by spilled bourbon. I walked the lakefront at dawn, gulls crying like accusations, wondering if nomad life was just a prettier word for running scared. A week in, the 8th ticket arrived, mailed, postmarked Tulsa, a train stub to Illinois, State 8. City lights can't outshine you. No note, just his handwriting on the back, looping like a lifeline. I pinned it to the studio wall, surrounded by proofs of covers featuring lone travelers under vast skies. The band noticed, their lead singer, a burly queer dad with tattoos of sonnets, clapping my shoulder. "Love's a hell of a muse, kid. Don't let it ghost you." But ghosts lingered. Late-night calls went to voicemail, his voicemail chirpy from weeks ago. "Hey, it's leave a trail. I'll follow." I left trails, voicemails spilling fears, texts mapping my heart's detours, but silence answered. Desperation clawed. I booked a flight west, credit card screaming, landing in Denver amid Rocky's jagged teeth. Colorado's craft brew scene and trail runs couldn't shake the chill. I hiked alone to overlooks, yelling his name into canyons that threw it back mocking. He was there, in a Boulder coffee shop, nursing black drip and a laptop, looking like he'd aged a decade in days, stubble shadowing his jaw, eyes hollowed by whatever war raged inside. "Jax," he breathed, standing so fast the chair scraped. We collided in the aisle, his arms crushing, coffee spilling forgotten. I fucked up. Over pie at a diner, cherry tart as regret, he spilled it. The ex, back in Wyoming, had shown up at his ma's ranch, all polished regret and promises of figuring it out together. One weeknight, bourbon-fueled, Riley had let him in. Not all the way, he swore, but enough to kiss the lie that family could fix him. I thought if I tried, maybe I could be what they want. For her. For the brother who hates me but still calls. Tears tracked his cheeks, voice cracking. "But it wasn't you. It was poison." Betrayal hit like altitude sickness. Dizzy, breathless. "You chose them," I whispered, fork bent in my grip. "Over us." He reached for my hand, but I pulled back, the ring on his finger glinting like accusation. "I chose fear, Jax. Stupid, selfish fear. But I'm here now. Let me fix it." We drove south through Colorado's aspen gold. RV reclaimed from storage, air thick with unspoken fractures. He talked, endless, raw, about the pull of blood, the Wyoming winters that froze more than lakes. The way coming out had branded him traitor. I listened, sketching him in profile against passing peaks, capturing the vulnerability I'd fallen for. In a Durango hot spring, steam rising like confessions, we stripped to essentials. Not bodies, but truths. "I love you," he said, water lapping our knees. "Scars and all. Let me prove it." The ticket he pressed into my palm that night, from Colorado to New Mexico. Wait, no, we doubled back, but it didn't matter. State 9. Soaking in second chances. Forgiveness isn't linear. It zigzags like our route. We detoured to Wyoming's edge, not crossing into his ghosts, but close enough to feel the pull. He showed me the ranch from afar, wire fences stitching badlands, a life he'd outrun. "That's not home," he said, hand in mine. "You are." Nebraska's cornfields whispered doubts as we crossed, endless green sea under big skies. Omaha's old-world charm, cobblestone streets, steakhouses thick with history, offered brief anchors. We volunteered at a queer youth center, Riley sharing his story with wide-eyed teens, his voice steady for the first time. "Running doesn't end it," he told them, glancing at me. "Facing it does." Pride swelled, fragile but real. That night, in a B&B with clawfoot tubs, we held each other like survivors, whispers weaving new vows. Iowa's rolling hills met us with harvest fairs, Ferris wheels creaking under autumn stars. Des Moines buzzed with farmers' markets, where we haggled for pumpkins and cider, laughter bubbling tentative. But conflict simmered. My Chicago gig extended, a real paycheck tempting stability. "Roots?" he echoed over bonfire esmores, marshmallow goo on his chin. "Thought we were weeds, thriving anywhere." "We can be both," I countered, but fear echoed his old ones. The ticket to Minnesota arrived via courier, unexpected. State 10. Fairy tales in the heartland. He grinned sheepishly. "Heard you humming that Lumineers song. Figured you'd need an out if I turn into a pumpkin." Minnesota's lakes mirrored our mending. 10,000, they say, but ours felt infinite. Minneapolis streets thrummed with theater and bikes, us pedaling paths lined with birch. A cabin on Boundary Waters offered solitude. Canoeing dawn waters, loons calling like omens. There, under northern light's green veil, he knelt. Not proposal, but plea. "Marry the road with me, Jax. No papers, just promises. State by state, till we're old and creaky." Tears blurred the aurora. "Yes?" I breathed, pulling him up, our rings clinking like toasts. But joy's shadow loomed. His phone buzzed. A cousin's wedding invite, Wyoming stamped. "Go," I urged. "Show them you're whole with me." He hesitated, then nodded. The drive to Wisconsin's Dairylands was quiet, cheese curds and Kringle our carbs for courage. Madison's Capitol Dome watched us pack his truck. Me staying for a week of freelance deadlines. "I'll be back before the leaves turn," he promised, kissing me deep in the dormer light. Ticket 11. Slipped under my wiper. State 11. Lakes and loves, waiting for you. Wisconsin's fall painted us gold, but absence gnawed. I sketched solo, forests framing empty spaces where his laugh should echo. Calls came sporadic, reception spotty in the Badlands, but his voice warmed. "Ma's asking questions. Good ones." Hope flickered, but so did dread. Michigan's Upper Peninsula gripped like winter's first breath. Mackinac Bridge swaying us across straits where lakes met sky. I flew in for the reunion, nerves jangling like keys. His family, uncharted territory. The wedding was a ranch affair. Hay bales, string lights, fiddles wailing under big-top tents. Riley's ma, silver-streaked and sharp-eyed, sized me up over pot roast, her handshake firm. "Heard you're the one keeping my boy smiling." His brother, broad as a barn, clapped Riley's back but eyed me wary, the air thick with unsaid sins. We danced, clumsy two-step in boots borrowed from kin. His hand sweat-slick in mine, whispers fierce. "See? We're real." But midway, the ex slunk in, tailored suit a lie against the dust, eyes raking Riley like reclaimed property. Words were traded in shadows, sharp, low, and Riley returned pale, jaw set. Old noise, he dismissed. But the night soured, toasts turning tense. We fled to the dunes, Lake Michigan's waves erasing boot prints. He said you'd leave me, Riley confessed, sand gritting our jeans. That city boys like you tire of rough edges. Rage flared, for the ex, for the poison still seeping. He's wrong, I growled, kissing him salt-stung. You're my edge. The ticket he carved that night on Driftwood State 12. Bridges burned, but we build new, felt like talisman. Indiana's corn mazes mirrored our twists. South Bend's Golden Dome, a beacon of quiet faith. We volunteered at a shelter, serving soup to runaways. Kids with eyes like ours once, haunted by homes that weren't havens. Riley's stories flowed freer, hands steady ladling broth. You saved me, one teen murmured, and his glance at me said we saved each other. But betrayal's echo lingered. In a Gary motel, his phone lit with texts. X again. Twisting knife with photos of what we had. Riley deleted them, but doubt crept. My own. Was I enough against blood's tide? We argued under flickering fluorescence, voices rising like storm. Him accusing me of clipping wings, me hurling his weakness back. You ran once, I shouted. What's stopping round two? He stormed out, returning at dawn with coffee and contrition. Nothing. You're my stop. We patched with drives through Hoosier Hills, leaves crunching under tires, silence healing slow. Ohio's Rust Belt heartbeat resilient. Cleveland's rock halls echoing our soundtrack, Springsteen's anthems about working-class dreams. We caught a concert, bodies pressed in the pit. His arm my anchor amid the crush. Backstage pass from a bouncer friend led to beers with the crew. Riley's grin wide as the lake. But post-show haze, in a lakeside cabin, vulnerability cracked open. I dream of losing you, he admitted, firelight dancing on his scars. Every night. Then wake with me, I replied, tracing his lines. Ticket 13. State 13. Rock and roll redemption. Pennsylvania's Appalachians rolled rugged, Pittsburgh's steel ghosts whispering endurance. We hiked Laurel Highlands, Billy Goat Trail testing our grit, slippery rocks. Riley's hand pulling me over ledges. Like life, he panted, sweat beading. In Philly, Liberty Bell cracked like our pasts. We wandered Old City, cheesesteaks dripping as we debated freedom's cost. America's big on liberty, he mused. But love? That's the real revolution. A call shattered the idyll. His ma, voice quavering. Brother's ranch foreclosing, family fracturing. Come home, Ree. We need you. The pull yanked, his face crumpling. We detoured to the Poconos, honeymoon cabins kitsch with heart tubs, but romance strained under worry. Go, I urged again, masking my fear. I'll meet you after. He left with a kiss like fracture, truck kicking gravel. Ticket 14, left on the dash. State 14, forged in fire like steel. New York's pulse hit like adrenaline. Manhattan's canyons swallowing us. Times Square blaze hiding heartaches. I crashed with artist friends in Brooklyn, freelancing amid graffiti walls. But the city echoed empty. Subways rattled regrets. Central Park benches held vigil for his texts. Sporadic, strained. Family drama. Miss your sketchy face. A month blurred. Then the 15th ticket arrived. FedEx to my loft. Broadway stub to Jersey. State 15. Lights, camera, heartbreak? Nah, action. He appeared at intermission, disheveled in a flannel amid tuxes. Grin sheepish. Surprise detour. We laughed through Act 2, his hand squeezing mine during the love duet. Post-curtain, rooftop bar overlooking the skyline, he confessed. The ex had crashed the ranch, stirring shit. Lies about me, about Riley's phase. Fists flew. Brother sided with blood, ma with truth. I chose you, he said, city hum underscoring. Told em we're family now. Tears mixed with rain as we danced under umbrellas. But joy's fragile. Vermont's green mountains called next. Fall foliage a blaze of fleeting beauty. Burlington's lakefront charmed. Sailing on Champlain. winds whipping sails like doubts. We canoed creeks, leaves carpeting water, his stories of boyhood winters thawing in my arms. Massachusetts history weighed, Boston's Freedom Trail tracing revolutions we mirrored. Harvard Yard's ivy whispered ambitions. I landed a gallery show for my road sketches, Riley beaming prouder than paint. But conflict crested in a Cape Cod gale, cottage shutters rattling. His brother called, ultimatum. Cut the city boy or cut us. Riley hung up, face thunder. They don't get it. Then make them. I pushed, waves crashing outside. Argument erupted, me wanting confrontation, him fearing loss. You're asking me to burn it all, he yelled. Door slammed. He drove into the storm. Dawn brought silence, then his truck, headlights cutting fog. Inside, soaked and shaking. I called, told him goodbye. We clung, salt and sorrow mingling. Ticket 16. State 16. Storms pass. Rainbows stay. New Hampshire's whites rose stark. Mount Washington testing resolve. Winds howling 200 miles per hour. Us roped together on the cog railway. Like us, he shouted over gusts, grip iron. Portsmouth's ports offered respite, seafood shacks and sea glass hunts mending. Maine's coast rugged us. Acadia's cliffs dropping to surf, lobster boils steaming with second chances. Bar Harbor's inns cradled quiet nights, fireplaces crackling confessions. I almost lost you twice, he murmured. No more. Rhode Island's bays lapped gentle Newport mansions mocking our modest dreams. We sailed, sails billowing hope. Connecticut's coast hugged, New Haven's Yale lamps lighting late talks on legacy. Ours is the road, he said. And then the pivot. Delaware's beaches, Rehoboth's queer haven. Boardwalks buzzed pride, us hand in hand unashamed. But the X's shadow loomed, texts escalating, threats veiled. Riley blocked, but fear fermented. Maryland's Chesapeake bridged, Baltimore's harbors echoing crossings. Annapolis's naval ghosts saluted our voyage. Virginia's Blue Ridge swelled emotion. Shenandoah hikes hand in hand. Peaks and valleys, he quipped, but eyes serious. West Virginia's hollers hollowed. Appalachian trails tracing roots raw. Charleston's rivers ran deep, like regrets washed. North Carolina's Outer Banks windswept wild. Lighthouses beaming through fog like beacons we'd become. Kitty Hawk's sands held first flights. Ours felt second chances soaring. Wilmington's ports pulsed with film sets, my sketches catching extras' eyes. But Riley's distraction grew. Phone silenced, but glances haunted. South Carolina's Charleston charmed antebellum, but low-country heat simmered tensions. Plantation's shadows stirred his ghosts, Wyoming echoes of land lost. Blood buys nothing, he spat during a ghost tour, hand crushing mine. Beaufort's marshes mirrored moods, gators gliding silent threats. Georgia's savannah draped mossy romance. Squares blooming azaleas, us picnicking under oaks. Forsyth Park's fountain sprayed wishes. He whispered, marry me here, someday. Hope bloomed, but the X's poison seeped. A letter arrived, forwarded from Wyoming. Venomous words branding Riley weak, me poison. He burned it, ashes scattering on the river, but embers lingered in his doubt. Florida's sun scorched, Key West's conch republic freeing spirits. Duval Street's drag queens crowned us kings for a night, rainbow flags flapping fierce. But Miami's pulse overwhelmed. Club lights flashed betrayals past. In a South Beach dawn, waves lapping he broke. He called Ma, said I'd ruin the family name forever. Then let it burn, I urged, but his flinch cut. We fled to the Everglades, airboats slicing mangroves, alligators' eyes glowing warning. Orlando's magic kingdoms offered escape, Disney's castles childish balm, but fairy tales crack under truth. Alabama's Gulf shimmered deceptive, Mobile's Mardi Gras beads hiding beads of sweat. We fished bays, lines taut as nerves, his casts missing rhythm. Montgomery's civil rights trails tread heavy. Rosa Parks' bus a reminder, change costs. We're marching too, he said, voice stealing. Mississippi's Delta blues wailed. Clarksdale's crossroads where deals with devils tempt. Juke joints thrummed with muddy waters, us swaying slow, his head on my shoulder. But midnight, guitar crying, he confessed. The ex offered money for the ranch. Said he'd fix me quiet. Rage boiled. And he met my eyes, unflinching. Told him to fuck off. With love. Laughter cracked the storm. We danced in the dust. Ticket 19 pinned to the bar. State 19. Blues turned to ballads. Arkansas's Ozarks folded secrets. Eureka Springs queer haven. Victorian baths soaking sins. Hot Springs vapors veiled vulnerabilities. He emerged renewed, skin pink as promises. Louisiana's bayous bewitched. New Orleans jazz funerals marching mourners to joy. French Quarter's balconies dripped beads and desire. Us Baynard and boozed. Second-line parades parading our parade. But Bourbon Street's excess echoed excess. His hand slipped from mine in the crush, panic spiking. Found him later, alley-shadowed, ex's specter in a stranger's leer. Not again, he growled, pulling me close. Tennessee's Smokies smoked memories. Gatlinburg's cabins cradling country croons. Nashville's honky-tonks honked our anthem, neon signs scripting us. Grand Ole Opry's echoes vowed eternity. But a bar brawl, drunk rednecks slurring fags. Tested. Riley swung first, knuckles splitting. I pulled him out, blood bonding. Kentucky's bluegrass rolled regal, Louisville's bourbon trails toasting triumphs. Mammoth Cave's depths delved darkness. We've crawled through worse, he echoed, hand lamplit. Illinois looped us back. Chicago's skyline welcoming. My gallery show a triumph. Sketches of our states sold. Faces in the crowd his proudest. But climax crested. X arrived. Uninvited. Suit crisp as cruelty. Cornering Riley post-reception. He's using you, Venom hissed. Come home, be a man. Eavesdropped, heart hammering. I burst in, words weapons. He's more man than you'll ever be. Chaos erupted shouts. Security. Riley's roar. Get out. We're done. All of it. X slunk, but damage dealt. Riley collapsed, sobs racking. I almost believed him. Again. We fled to the lake, piers end our confessional. Betrayal's not just his, he wept. Mine, to you, every doubt. I held him, waves lapping absolution. We're human, flawed maps. But together we navigate. Missouri's arcs arched. St. Louis gateway west. Our eastward turn symbolic. Branson's shows sparkled schmaltz, but heartfelt. Iowa revisited. Fields harvested bare, truth stripped. Des Moines domes domed decisions. Settle? I ventured. He grinned. Where the heart halls. Wisconsin's winters whispered warning. Milwaukee's breweries brewing bravery. Holidays neared. His ma called invitation tentative. Bring him. See the lights. Michigan's mitt warmed. Detroit's reinvention our reinvention. Family dinner. Ma's pie. Brother's grunt thawing to questions. You make him happy? Affirmative nods sealed. Ohio's lakes lapped closure. Cleveland's rock resurrection hours. Indiana's mazes unmazed, paths clear. Pennsylvania's peaks peaked. Pittsburgh's rivers converging like loves. New York's lights lit last legs. Manhattan marathons. Brooklyn bridges binding. And home. Full circle. Seattle's rain rinsing remnants. Cabin fires flickered finals. He knelt proper. Ring from a silversmith. Marry me, Jax. All states, all stations. Yes. Infinite. But Epilogues Inc. Years on, tickets framed 50, one per state, messages mementos. His ma visits, brother's kid calls us uncles. Betrayals fade to footnotes. Love's the legend. We roam still, nomads rooted, heart's highways. He never stopped loving. Neither did I.